Welcome to the new video. Great to have you all here today. Now, I already know what you're thinking. Wait, this is old news.
We already heard about it.
I get it. I'm a little late to the party, and for that, I apologize. But this is still a huge story that deserves to be broken down in detail because it has serious implications for the Indiana Fever and the WNBA as a whole. Three-time, count M, three-time, WNBA champion Natasha Howard has officially signed with the Indiana Fever as a free agent, according to reports from ESPN. The former Defensive Player of the Year and two-time All-Star is making her return to the franchise that originally drafted her. And let me tell you, this move is going to have a major impact on Indiana's Frontcourt and their playoff hopes. Breaking news: Natasha Howard is back in Indiana. Aaliyah Boston is already throwing a party. Y'all know what's coming. The Bow 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 party is officially underway. But let's talk about the biggest takeaway from this signing. What does this move really mean for Indiana? At the very worst, this means Nelissa Smith is heading to the bench. At the very best, she's already packing her bags for a trade. Either way, this move dramatically reshapes Indiana's lineup. Projected Indiana Fever starting five. White heavy checkmark Aaliyah Boston, the franchise cornerstone, defensive anchor, and dominant force inside. White heavy checkmark Natasha Howard, a veteran presence with defensive toughness and offensive versatility. White heavy checkmark Lexi Hull, a solid wing defender who can space the floor. White heavy checkmark Kelsey Mitchell, one of the most underrated scorers in the WNBA. White heavy checkmark Caitlin Clark, the rookie sensation who's bringing excitement and record-breaking viewership. That is a rock-solid starting five, folks. Of course, we lost Hemi Fagbennel, which was a big defensive loss, but Howard fills that gap and then some. She gives us the defense we lost with Fagbennel while also adding an entire offensive bag to the mix. What Natasha Howard brings to the Indiana Fever. For those who might not be familiar with Natasha Howard's game, let me educate you real quick. Here are just a few things she brings to the Fever. Elite defense. She's a former Defensive Player of the Year for a reason. Offensive versatility. She can post up, hit mid-range shots, and even knock down the occasional three. Veteran leadership. With 3 championships under her belt, she knows what it takes to win. Toughness. This is not a player who will let opponents push her teammates around. Howard's game is well-rounded, and she fills multiple needs for Indiana. How does she fit? Let me break it down. 15-foot jumper? Cash. Dribble move to the basket? Buckets. Post-up game? Strong. Running the floor in transition? Effortless. Fighting for rebounds and putbacks? She's got it. Howard is exactly the type of player Indiana needed. She fits perfectly alongside Aaliyah Boston, and this move immediately raises the Fever's ceiling for next season. What does this mean for Nelissa Smith? Now, I hate to rain on the parade, but we have to be honest here. Nelissa Smith was already on thin ice, and this move doesn't make her situation any better. At the very worst, she's now a role player off the bench. At the very best, she's already packing her bags for a trade. If a deal is in the works, the best-case scenario might be sending her to Connecticut for front-court depth, Seattle for a package involving future assets, somewhere else where she can get a fresh start. Because let's be real, Howard does everything Smith can do offensively, and then some. And defensively, it's not even close. Howard gives you elite rim protection, strong one-on-one defense, toughness, and rebounding. Meanwhile, Smith has struggled defensively, and with the addition of Howard, her role is shrinking fast. Natasha Howard, strength, defense, and no-nonsense energy. One thing is for sure, Howard is not the type to let opponents push her teammates around. She may not be the biggest enforcer in the league, but she brings toughness and physicality that Indiana desperately needed. Let me give you some real talk. Brittany Griner bullying Aaliyah Boston in the paint. Not happening anymore. Victoria Vivian's shoving Caitlin Clark down the court? Howard is shutting that down. Kennedy Carter throwing cheap shots? Howard will have words for her. Diamond DeShields flying in for a reckless hip check? Yeah, that's not going unnoticed. This is the tough, defensive presence Indiana needed, and Howard's impact will be immediate. What should the Fever do next? Now, let's talk roster construction. If the choice comes down to keeping Nelissa Smith or Damaris Dantas, I want Dantas every single time. Here's why. White heavy checkmark better offensive player. She can stretch the floor. White heavy checkmark better defensive player. She holds her own in the post. White heavy checkmark more versatile. She can play multiple roles in the front court. If the Fever need to clear space, Smith should be the odd one out. Here's my ideal front court rotation heading into next season. Aaliyah Boston, starting center. Natasha Howard, starting power forward. Damaris Dantas, key bench piece. I don't even need Smith in the rotation. I'd rather see those minutes go to Grace Berger, who brings strong playmaking. Katie Lou Samuelson, if she's in the mix. If it comes down to keeping Smith or Dantas, please, for the love of all things basketball, keep Dantas. She brings size, shooting, and defense, exactly what the Fever still need. Final thoughts. What this means for the Fever's future. This move signals a shift for Indiana. They are officially building for a playoff push. White heavy checkmark Aaliyah Boston? Franchise player. White heavy checkmark Caitlin Clark? The face of the future. White heavy checkmark Natasha Howard? Veteran leader and defensive anchor. White heavy checkmark Kelsey Mitchell? Elite scorer. The Fever are making moves, and they're finally putting together a team that can compete in the East. With Howard in the lineup, Indiana still needs a true stretch four, but they are a much stronger, tougher team today than they were before this signing. Let's talk about it. So, what do you think? Was this a great move for Indiana? Should they trade Nelissa Smith? What's the next move for the Fever? Let me know in the comments section below. As always, thank you for your support. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more WNBA content. This has been your latest update. See you next time.
Take it easy.